Accept my humble thanks for glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Yes, we started Bhagavad Gita.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 2, text 19. Itham munistu paramedyavastito vigyana suranditashaya swapashne nabhidya gudam tato nilam sthaneshu satsu namaye jitaklamah.
Hare Krishna, Deepak Prabhu, we can't hear you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. If you can please start with the translation, text 19. Thank you.
Sure. Hare Krishna. By the strength of scientific knowledge, one should be well situated in absolute realization, thus be able to extinguish all material desires. One should then give up the material body by blocking the air hole through which stool is evacuated with the heel of one's foot and by lifting the life air from one place to another in the 6 primary places.
Text 20. नाभ्यां स्थितं हृदि अधिरोप्य तस्मात् उदानगत्योरसि तां नयेन्मुनिः ततोऽनुसन्धाय धिया मनस्वी स्वतालुमूलं शनकैर्नयेता.
The meditative devotee should slowly push up the life air from the navel to the heart, from here to the chest, and from there to the root of the palate. He should search out the proper places with intelligence.
Text 21. Tasma bhruvorantaram unayeta niruddha saptayatano nambheksha sthitva muhuratardam akuntha drashtet nirbhidya murdham vishrajet param gatah.
Thereafter, the bhakti yogi should push the life air up between the eyebrows and then blocking the 7 outlets of the life air. He should maintain his aim for going back home, back to Godhead. If he is completely free from all desires for material enjoyment, he should then reach the cerebral hole and give up his material connections, having gone to the Supreme.
Text 22. Yadi prayasyan nripaparamesthyan vaihayasanam utayad viharam astadipatyam gunasannivaye saheva gache manasendriyascha.
However, O king, if a yogi maintains a desire for improved material enjoyments like transference to the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, or the achievement of the 8-fold perfections, travel in outer space with the Vaishvayasas, or situation in one of the millions of planets, then he has to take away with him the materially molded mind and senses.
Text 23. Yogeshwaranam gatimahurantar bahistrilokya pavanantaratmanam na karmabhistam gatim apuruvanti vidyatapo yoga samadhi bhajam.
The transcendentalists are concerned with the spiritual body. As such, by the strength of their devotional service, austerities, mystic power, and transcendental knowledge, their movements are unrestricted within and beyond the material walls. The fruitive workers or the gross materialists can never move in such an unrestricted manner.
Text 24. Vaishvanaram yati vihaya sagata Shushumanaya brahmapathena shochisha Vidhuta kalkotha harirudastat Prayati chakram nripashaishu maram.
O king, when such a mystic passes over the Milky Way by the illuminating Susumna to reach the highest planet Brahmaloka, he goes first to Vaishvahara, the planet of the deity of fire, wherein he becomes completely cleansed of all contaminations, and thereafter he still goes higher to the circle of Sisumara to relate with Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead.
Text 25. Tadvishvanabhim Tvaativatya Vishnu Aniyashavirajinatmanaika Namaskritam Brahmavidamupaiti Kalpayusho Yadvibudharamante.
This Sisumara is the pivot for the turning of the complete universe, and it is called the navel of Vishnu, Garbhalokyasri Vishnu. The yogi alone goes beyond this circle of Sisumara and attains the planet Maharloka, where purified saints like Bhrigu enjoy a duration of life of 4,300 million solar years. This planet is worshipable even for the saints who are transcendentally situated.
Text 26. Atho anantasya mukhanalena dandahyamanam saniriksha vishvam niryati siddheshwarayostadishnyam yadve paradyam taduparamestyam.
At the time of the final devastation of the complete universe, the end of the duration of Brahma's life, a flame of fire emanates from the mouth of Ananta, from the bottom of the universe. The yogi sees all the planets of the universe burning to ashes, and thus he leaves for Satyaloka by airplanes used by the great purified souls. The duration of life in Satyaloka is calculated to be 15,480,000 million years. Whatever that is, sorry.
Text 27. Nayatra shoko najara na mrityur nartir na chodvegarite kutaschit yachitatoda kripaya nidam vedam duranta dukha prabhavanu darshana.
In that planet of Satyaloka, there's neither bereavement nor old age nor death. There's no pain of any kind, and therefore there are no anxieties, save that sometimes due to consciousness, there is a feeling of compassion for those unaware of the process of devotional service who are subjected to unsurpassable miseries in the material world.
Text 28. Tato vishesham pratipadya nirbhayas tenatmanapo nalamurti atvaran Jyotirmayo vayam upetya kale vayavyatmanakham brihadatmalingam.
After reaching Satyaloka, the devotee is specifically able to be incorporated fearlessly by the subtle body in an identity similar to that of the gross body, and one after another he gradually attains stages of existence from earthly to watery, fiery, glowing, airy, until he reaches the ethereal stage.
Text 29. Grihanena gandham rashanena vairasam rupam cha drishtya swasanam tvachaiva श्रोत्रेण चोपेत्य नाभो गुणात्वां प्राणेन चाकूतिमुपैति योगी.
The devotee thus surpasses the subtle objects of different senses like aroma by smelling, the palate by tasting, vision by seeing forms, touch by contacting, the vibrations of the ear by ethereal identification, and the sense organs by material activities.
Text 30. सबूत सूक्ष्मेन्द्रिय सन्निकर्षं मनोमयं देवमयं विकार्यं संसाद्य गत्या सह तेन याति विज्ञानतत्त्वं गुणसनिरोधम्.
The devotee, thus surpassing the gross and the subtle forms of coverings, enters the plane of egoism. And in that status, he merges the material modes of nature, ignorance and passion, in this point of neutralization, and thus reaches egoism in goodness. After this, all egoism is merged in the Mahat Tattva, and he comes to the point of pure self-realization.
Text 31. येनात्मनात्मानमुपैति शान्तम् आनन्दमानन्दमयो वसाने एतां गतिं भागवतीं गतो य सवे पुनर्नेह विषजातेङ्ग.
Only the purified soul can attain the perfection of associating with the personality of Godhead in complete bliss and satisfaction in his constitutional state. Whoever is able to renovate such devotional perfection is never again attracted by this material world, and he never returns.
Text 32. एते श्रुति ते नृपवेदगीते त्वयाभिप्रशते च सनातने च यवै पुरब्राह्मण आहास्तुष्ट आराधितो भगवान् वासुदेवः.
Your Majesty, Maharaj Parikshit, know that all that I have described in reply to your proper inquiry is just according to the version of the Vedas, and it is eternal truth. This was described personally by Lord Krishna unto Brahma, with whom the Lord was satisfied upon being properly worshipped.
Text 33. नाह्यतोऽन्य शिवपन्था विशता संस्रव इह वासुदेवे भगवति भक्तियोगो यतो भवेत्.
For those who are wandering in the material universe, there is no more auspicious means of deliverance than what is aimed at the direct devotional service of Lord Krishna.
Text 34. भगवान् ब्रह्मकाच्येन त्रिरन्वीक्ष्य मनीषया तदध्यासवशयत् कूटस्थो रतिरात्मन्यतो भवेत्.
The great personality, Brahma, with great attention and concentration of the mind, studied the Vedas 3 times, and after scrutinizingly examining them, he ascertained that attraction for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the highest perfection of religion.
Text 35. भगवान् सर्वभूतेषु लक्षिता स्वात्मना हरिः दृश्यैर्बुद्ध्यादिभिर्बुद्धिदृष्टा लक्षणैरनुमापके.
The personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is in every living being along with the individual soul. And this fact is perceived and hypothesized in our acts of seeing and taking help from the intelligence.
Text 36. तस्मात् सर्वात्मना राजन् हरिः सर्वत्र सर्वदा श्रोतव्या कीर्तितव्यश्च स्मर्तव्यो भगवान् नृणाम्.
O King, it is therefore essential that every human being hear about, glorify, and remember the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, always and everywhere.
Text 37. पिबन्ति ये भगवान् आत्मना सतां कथामृतं श्रवणभूतेषु साम्प्रतां पुनन्ति ते विषया विदुषिताशयं व्रजन्ति तच्चरणसरोरुहान्तिकम्. Hare Krishna.
Those who drink through oral reception, fully filled with nectarian message of Lord Krishna, the beloved of the devotees, purify the polluted aim of life known as material enjoyment, and thus go back to Godhead, to the lotus feet of Him, the personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna. Apologies for my any mistakes.
Apologies for any mistakes. Thank you for giving the opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I'm going to switch off my camera just so that it's easier for me to concentrate. We'll start with the prayers. Chakshurabmilitam tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manavishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Papadamam Dadati Swapadantikam. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him, when Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who is established within the material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanabhyo vaishnavabhyo namo namaha. So, very good evening to everyone. My name is Nandrani, and I've been asked to go through 3 verses, verse 25, 26, and 27. So in verse 25, well, in fact, even before verse 25, let me just go back a little bit, and I want to set the context.
Hare Krishna, Nandrani, please forgive me. Can't hear you very well.
We can't.
Okay, can you hear me now? Is it better?
Still very faint.
Oh, it's very faint. Is that
Yeah.
the case for everyone else?
Yes, Mataji, we can't hear you very well. Sorry, Mataji.
Okay, no, thank you so much for that. I'm not sure what to do really. My speakers are on full. Let's see if I can just adjust it on the main. Please bear with me while I just check the sound. Right, is that better?
Yes, definitely.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Parika Mataji, for raising that up straight away.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So let's just go back a little bit to chapter 1. Chapter 1 was titled The First Step to God Realization. And time after time, Sukadev Goswami is really putting forward the point that if, you know, Grihamadis are attached to materialistic family life, but the symptoms of a pure devotee is one who is actually the actual duty of a devotee is to hear about, glorify, and also remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This will lead the life of perfection. And then again, we are reminded about Maharaj Katwanga that even in a moment, just by constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord and remembering the Lord, that somehow or another we can be free from our material desires. And then again, we go to the 3/4 part of chapter 1. And again, Sukadev Goswami emphasizes that one can only make progress by meditating on the supreme form of Lord Vishnu, who is at the level of devotional service. And then again, we end finally in chapter 1, where it says that one who doesn't concentrate his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead will be misled and it will cause its own degradation. So why am I bringing up this point really? Well, we are at the moment, Sukadev Goswami is actually, he's describing why it's futile to endeavor on a material level. And he explains that it's only devotional service that helps us to understand our actual understanding. So this chapter, which is about the Lord within the heart, it tells us, it reminds us that the process of actually meditating on the Lord is starting by actually more meditating on the form of the Lord, starting by the feet and remembering what the feet represent, the ankles, and so on. And in that way, we can actually purify intelligence. Now, the Virat Rupa meditation is a prerequisite to the personal form of the Lord. And so this is what we're kind of in the moment, at this moment, what's being described. Now, in this verse 25, it explains the Shishamara is the pivot for the turning of the complete universe, and it's called the navel of Garbhadaksha Vishnu. The yogi alone goes beyond this cycle of Shishamara and attains the planet Mahaloka, where purified saints like Brigu enjoy the duration of life. Now, this planet, they enjoy the life for 4,300,000,000 years, solar years. So that's quite a significant amount of time. And this planet is worshipable even by the saints who are transcendently situated. Now, what's interesting is that when the Sanskrit was recited, there's no such word as Shishamara. But here Prabhupada tells us that this is the Shishamara. And so what is the Shishamara? Well, we have to try and understand what is the Shushna. First, we have to understand that the Shishamara and the Shushma, if I just kind of break it down a little bit, the Shushma is really it's a name given to the main energy channel of the subtle body. And this is being described as we've been reading in the chapter, how the different aspects of the body, the subtle body, are burnt and purified. So within yoga, this is known as like the life force. So while there are so many channels within the body, the subtle body, there are three primary nadis: the Ida, the Pingala, and the Shushma. And they correspond to the left, the right, and the central body, respectively. So some of us may be doing breathing exercises, Anulom Vilom, the left nostril, the right nostril. So this is very much linked to the nadis. And as we know, the yogis, when they're meditating, they are undertaking breathing. Now, so what is the Shishamara? And this is quite technical, but it's linked together. And the Shishamara here we read in this verse is the navel of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. So in Canto 5, it actually explains in detail, more in detail, about what is Shishamara, and it's explained. It's like the external form of the Lord, and it says that those who worship the Virat Purush, or the universal form of the Lord, conceive of the entire rotating system of planets as an animal. Some describe it as a dolphin, which is known as the Shishamara. And in the Bhagavatam, it says it's imaginary. Some say that it actually, it can be seen, the planets and the stars together when they're formed, that the yogis, when they're meditating and they're doing their deep breathing, they are actually looking at the Shishamara as a form of the Lord. And how it's described, the Shishamara, is it goes, the form of the Lord is, it goes downwards. So the body appears that like a coiled snake. And then at the end of the tail is Dhruvaloka. And then the body of the tail is the Prajapati, Agni, Indra, Dharma. So the demigods, it's related to the planets. And on the waist are like great sages, So the entire body faces downwards to the right and appears like a coil of stars. The Shishumara is it's also it's a planetary system which is technically also known as the Kundalini chakra. So then again, you can relate it back to the body and breathing. Now in Canto 5, chapter 23, verse 9, it describes that the body of the Supreme Lord, which is the Shishumara chakra, is the resting place of all demigods and all the stars and all the planets. And one who chants this mantra, which is at mantra verse 9, then because the Bhagavatam is always giving benedictions, it's always giving gifts at the end or at the beginning of some of the chapters. So it says when one chants this particular verse, I won't chant it because I'm not as eloquent as many of you, but it's certainly something for you to be signposted to 5:23:9, that when you chant this mantra to worship the Supreme Lord 3 times a day, morning, noon, and evening, you'll be freed from all sinful reactions. And if one simply offers his obeisances to that form and remembers the form of the Lord 3 times a day, his recent sinful activities will be destroyed. So that, we want to kind of understand that why is it that in chapter 1 we've been reading time and time again, and we've concluded towards the end of chapter 2 that the only way forward is really to serve the Lord is by actually remembering him and chanting him and remembering him directly. But here, those who are worshipping the Lord as the Virat form, then and in some ways that's the impersonal aspect of the Lord, then they haven't. Why do they worship that? Because even these great yogis, if they're actually living on these planets, it means they haven't quite achieved the Supreme Lord, and they haven't quite achieved pure devotional service, simply because they haven't developed a sense of loving service to the Lord. So whilst they're great souls, we should just bear in mind what is it that later on in verse 26 Prabhupada is telling us. So let me just go to verse 26. At the time of final devastation of the complete universe, the end of duration of Brahma's life, a flame of fire emanates from the mouth of Ananta, from the bottom of the universe. Of course, Ananta is holding up the universe, and the yogi sees all the planets of the universe burning to ashes, and thus he leaves for Satyaloka by airplanes used by the great purified souls. So the duration of life in Satyaloka is calculated at, now, how am I going to say this? 1,548,000,000 years, solar years. So they have, Prabhupada says that in the purport that these, what we get an indication of is that these great sages are moving from planet to planet. Even at the end of devastation, the devotees who are in Vaikuntha, Vaikuntha is in touch, of course, but the other planets are, as they're being devastated, then these yogis are moving about. And so let's see what Srila Prabhupada is saying. Now, Prabhupada wants to get a very important point across to us, and that is that all of this, the cosmic manifestation, the different planets, the Shishumara, all of that is being explained through the Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada is warning us here that he is saying that, he's telling us, look, there are great acharyas like Sridhar Swami, Ramanuja, Vallabhacharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who accept the Srimad Bhagavatam as a spotless Vedic authority. As such, no sane man should ignore the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam because they're spoken by self-realized souls like Sukadev Swami, who followed the step of his father, Srila Vyasadeva, in compiling the Vedic literature. And then Prabhupada then goes on to warn us that we shouldn't really, he's saying that in the creation of the Lord, where there are many wonderful things that can be seen with our own eyes every day and night, but we're unable to reach them, equipped with modern materialistic science. So Prabhupada is actually saying, the limitations of science, that we can even see these great planets, but we can't even reach them. And therefore, he's warning us, telling us that we shouldn't depend on fragmentary authority of materialistic science for knowing these things beyond the range of scientific purview. So for a common man, we shouldn't really simply accept the statements of modern science. So Prabhupada is telling us that we should, accept the version of the literature of Srimad Bhagavatam, because it's also accepted by great sages, and he cited them. He said Sridhar Swami, Ramanujacharya, Vallabhacharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Srila Prabhupada is telling us to have faith in these acharyas, and he says, well, they've unanimously accepted, where he says science is fragmented. So that's something that we have to take away, that Prabhupada opens up the purport by saying, yes, this place is wonderful, it's awe and wonder. Can you imagine how this beautiful Shishumara, where it's described like a dolphin, and it's light, and you can see the planets and the stars, and there's awe and wonder. But it's also it's temporary, it's worshipping the Virat form. Now, whilst we can see the Supreme Lord is in everything and everyone and everywhere, we're warned that it's not enough. It's not enough, because you'll still be experiencing birth, death, old age, disease, even on these great planets, which these great sages actually reside in, because they haven't actually been able to achieve a personal relationship with the Lord. So he's telling us this is not the ultimate. If yogis are spending time after time after time meditating, through the breathing, through the yogic postures and breathing systems, and they can travel, because this is clearly, it's stated here that Bhrigu is traveling from one planet to another. It's still not enough, because they haven't developed a personal relationship with the Lord. So there are two things we want to come away with, that even if you're worshipping this impersonal aspect of the Lord, the Virat form, it is actually a prerequisite to meditation on the personal form of the Lord, again, for those who haven't developed a sense of loving service to the Supreme Lord. And then verse 27, in that planet of Satyaloka, there is neither bereavement, nor old age, nor death. There's no pain of any kind, and therefore there's no anxieties, save that sometimes, due to consciousness, there's a feeling of compassion for those unaware of the process of devotional service, who are subjected to unpassable miseries in the material world. I think it's going to be really important to unpick this purport that Srila Prabhupada says. So I'm just going to read through it quickly, and then we can, pull out some key parts. So Prabhupada says, these foolish men of materialistic temperament don't take advantage of successive authorized knowledge. The Vedic knowledge is authorized, and it's acquired not by experiment, but by authentic statement of the Vedic literatures explained by a bona fide authority. So here we go. Prabhupada is still, he's still sort of emphasizing the point that he goes on to say, even by becoming an academic scholar, one cannot understand the Vedic statements. One has to approach a real authority who has received the Vedic knowledge by disciplic succession and is clearly explained in the Bhagavad Gita. But chapter 4, verse 2, which is Evam Parampara Praptam Imam Rajasayo Vidu Sa Kalahena Mahata Yoga Nashta Paratapa. That the supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in this way. But in the course of time, that succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. So here's a very clear distinction about Vedic knowledge and materialistic knowledge. Materialistic knowledge is based on hypothesis, testing, evidence based on the gross material senses. That, you know, I only think something is robust and has integrity if I can see it, if I can touch it, if I can feel it, if I can smell it. So, but of course, here we understand that there are limitations on our sensory perception, because we're not then perceiving the greater wisdom and knowledge which the Bhagavatam is here exposing to us about the Virat form, and then the different aspects of we're hearing how you know, the yogi, when they quit their body, they can purify themselves of gross and subtle bodies, and that they what they do is that they're able to extinguish all their material desires by obviously through their own endeavors, but also through transmigrating into one of the planets where the Agni, the fire, burns up anything that one. So there's a purification process in that traveling in different planetary systems, but so there are so many layers. There's the aspect that we're covering. Prabhupada is covering about the Virat Rupa, Virat Rup, and the limitations of that, because, you know, those who meditate on the Virat Rup haven't quite developed loving service. But then Prabhupada also says, when he talks about the different planets and everything, that the science has its limitations. Academic science cannot actually cannot give us this information. Prabhupada is saying to us, look, it's been handed down through parampara, so therefore we should accept it. And that Bhagavatam for us as devotees is the authority. Now, Prabhupada says that Lord Krishna affirmed the system of knowledge is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, was explained to the sun god, and then that knowledge descended to disciplic succession from the sun god to his son Manu, and then to King Ikshvaku, the forefather of Lord Ramachandra. So again, Prabhupada is talking about what's bona fide knowledge for a devotee. Then Prabhupada goes on, he's a bit scathing. He says that there are many foolish men who don't follow the footsteps of Arjuna in understanding the spirit of Bhagavad Gita. They create instead their own interpretations, which are foolish and thereby only help to put a stumbling block on the real understanding of misdirecting innocent followers who are less intelligent, or the Shudras. So it's Prabhupada is saying it's said that one should become a Brahmana before one can understand the Vedic system. And this stricture is important as a stricture on that one shall become a lawyer who is, let me just read this again, Vedic segments, that this stricture is as important as the stricture that no one shall become a lawyer who is not qualified himself as a graduate. So he's saying that such a stricture is not an impediment in the path of progress for anyone and everyone, but it's necessary for an unqualified person understanding of a particular science. So Vedic knowledge is misinterpreted by those who are not qualified Brahmanas. So here Prabhupada tells us that, you know, qualified Brahman is one who undergoes strict training under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. So here what he's saying is that, you know, we shouldn't be speculating. And also we should be focusing on our own growth, so we achieve a state of Brahmana. So that's purification. You know, Brahmanas are giving, they undertake austerity, they undertake study, they share that, so that when we come to a stage of our own purification, then we can actually begin to understand Vedic wisdom. And that's the difference between a Brahmana and a Vaishnava. So we've got these Brahmanas, these Bhrigu and all these different great devotees. They are still in the material world, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we have to understand that they are still, even if they're, they're in the greatest planet, you know, Mahaloka, but they're still traveling in the material plane. They haven't reached the plane where they've developed a loving service, a loving personal relationship with the Supreme Lord. So that's why, as devotees, we must understand the difference between the purification process, even for us, and how it should lead to having a personal, loving relationship with Lord Krishna. And we can only do that when we begin to be, we're less inquisitive about mysticism and interplanetary travel, and we're more interested in who is Krishna. What is his pastimes? What does he love? What is devotional service? What is it about the relationship with the Lord and his devotees that help us to understand that our real place and position is to actually understand the Supreme Lord through his form, his pastimes, his activities, his paraphernalia, and of course his devotees. So finally, we're coming on to almost 8:30 now, so just the last 3 minutes, let me just try to pull all this together. So the final bit of the purport says that the Vedic system guides us to understanding our relationship with the Supreme Lord, Krishna, and to act according to, in order to achieve the desired result of going back home to Godhead. So here's where Prabhupada is scathing. But materialistic men don't understand this. They want to plan to become happy in a place where there is no happiness. For false happiness, they try to reach other planets, either by Vedic rituals or spacecraft, but they should know for certain that any amount of materialistic adjustment for becoming happy in a place which is meant for distress cannot benefit the misguided man. So even though there are places in Mahaloka where there's no suffering, except that for when they feel compassion for others, but Prabhupada also tells us it's misdirected compassion. Let's unpick it a bit more. The intelligent person therefore makes a plan to return back home to Godhead, but an intelligent person so passes the pangs of material existence like birth, death, old age, and disease. He is actually happy because he has no anxieties of material existence, but as a compassionate sympathizer, he feels unhappiness for the suffering materialistic men. And thus he occasionally comes before these materialistic men to teach them the necessity of going back home to Godhead. So there's also the great souls will feel compassion for those who are unhappy. And in some ways, this relates to Srila Prabhupada, because Srila Prabhupada did say that, I was in the spiritual world and I didn't want to come down to the material world, but I was directed to come down just to help those who are suffering, and then bring them back to Godhead, bring them onto a platform of Brahmana and Vaishnava. And so finally it ends that all bona fide acharyas preach the truth of returning back home to Godhead and warn men not to make false plans of happiness in a place where happiness is only a myth. So, whether we are on this planet Earth or whether we're traveling beyond the Shishumara, whether we are, like Bhrigu or Angira, they're living on these planets. They are Brahmanas, but their time might be longer than ours, but it's still limited. Why are they there? Because they haven't fully actually understood um, their personal relationship with the Lord. So if we understand this, dear devotees, that, you know, the most important thing, time after time, we are told in chapter 1 and chapter 2, is that we must develop a loving relationship with Lord Krishna. And finally, Prabhupada gives us an analogy in this final verse 27. It is said that one should become a Brahmana before he can understand Vedic statements. So this is really important for us, that if we want to understand Vedic statements, if we want to understand the Bhagavatam, then we must endeavor wherever we can to purify ourselves so we can come to a state of a Brahmana, and so that we can understand that we can be qualified to not only teach and preach, but we can be qualified to come to a platform where we can have a personal loving relationship with Lord Krishna. Thank you very much for bearing with me. I think, you know, when we're talking about the Shishimara and, you know, the other aspects of the cosmic manifestation, we can see it's encompassing, you know, and yet, you know, when we think about the Chatur Shloki, the Supreme Lord is the cause of all causes. He exists before, during, and after annihilation. The Lord is in everything, everyone, everywhere. The Lord is Brahman, he's Paramatma, he's Bhagavan, and he's everything. Without the Lord is illusion, and yet the Lord is pure and uncontaminated, and we should seek him. So when we're reading this, we shouldn't be reading with the idea that, well, you know, it's a bit, there's a limitation to this, you know, because these yogis in these great planets, Mahaloka planets, they haven't got it, they haven't understood. Yes, we have to understand that point, but we have to understand that the Supreme Lord makes himself available for all of us in every way possible, that in everything we look at and everything we see and everything we experience, the Lord is not separate. And for that, we develop a great sense of gratitude that somehow or another, you know, when we, as soon as we open our eyes and we hear, we have the opportunity to understand that beautiful smiling face of the Lord, who is full of kind words, and the Lord whose feet we meditate on. You know, I like his feet are the only solution to overcoming suffering in this material world. The Lord's feet are like mountains that shatter the sins within our heart. His feet are the source of the Ganges, which purify us lovingly as a mother. And Lord's feet are the source of all knowledge. And Lord's feet are like sunshine, you know, like when the sun shines, it doesn't discriminate. It's always there for us unconditionally. So there's this sweetness in remembering the Lord in his personal form compared to seeing the Lord through the Virat form. It's still awe-inspiring. We need to be able to have that understanding of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. But the ultimate realization is that when we have understood Brahman, we've understood Paramatma, then we can really understand who Bhagavan is. And by meditating on the form of the Lord, as Sukadeva Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj, time after time after time, keep meditating on the form of the Lord, then we begin to understand who this wonderful, beautiful, sweet, kind, extraordinary Lord that we have, and we have this opportunity, which we're all seeking in the material world, to, you know, have loving relationships with, that ultimately we have the most wonderful relationship with the Supreme Lord. It's just we've forgotten. And so therefore, by purifying ourselves, it's like Prabhupada says, you know, you've got to come to the stage of, just like a lawyer has to be qualified to be a lawyer, we have to be qualified to become a Brahmana. So then we can come to a stage of understanding Vedic literature, which all of you are. So I pay my humble obeisances to you all. Thank you so much for tolerating me. And does anyone have any questions? Or comments? Okay, so I don't think there are any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes,
Madanand Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, thank you so much. It was beautifully explained, really clear. Thank you so much, Mataji. Just had one quick question, Mataji, and sorry if I missed it. So, Mataji, you said the chanting and the prayer that we do 3 times in a day would mean all our sins will go away. Which chanting prayer did you mention, Mataji?
So the it's in Canto 5. Let me see if I can remember it. I think I cited it earlier. I don't know if anyone else remembers, but yeah, here we are. It's 5:23:9. Now,
5:20.
yeah. Now, what I would say to you is there's a warning, there's a caveat to that. Because the Bhagavatam is, as we're reading Bhagavatam, it's evolving our consciousness. So when we chant this 3 times a day, what happens is that when we offer our obeisances to that form of the Shishumara chakra, that we remember the form of the Lord in that form, then all recent sinful activities will be destroyed. But here's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us, which is the most potent, which is the Chetodarpana Marjana Mahadavagini Nirvapanam Shreya Kareva Chandrika Vitanam Vidya Bahadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vadanam Pratipadam Purnashwandanam Sarvatma Stapanam Parama Vijayata Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. There is nothing more powerful than the chanting of the holy name. And if we can do it with focused attention, with purified heart, with attention, with complete, desireless of anything. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadishakame. That we don't want anything except we want to just serve the Lord and we want to please the Lord. So I would say to you, fabulous question. It's there and we can do it. If we want to burn up sinful, recent sinful, but why not chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra with great concentration and with in mind the Shistashtakam and the 10 offenses. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu promises us that he won't just take away our recent karma, but he will cleanse us completely, the dust within our heart for many, many lifetimes. We're hearing 15,480,000,000 years, right? That's just of a planet. Gosh knows how long we've been around. Who knows what kind of karma we're carrying with us, And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is just the most merciful, most compassionate Lord, because just simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we can eradicate all our sinful past, just through the mercy of the Lord. And Prabhupada tells us, minimum chant 16 rounds, follow the 4 regulative principles, read Bhagavatam in the association of the devotees, which you are, and all will be well. But I hope I've given you the answer and a bit more.
Haribol, thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Great question.
Hare Krishna Nandrani, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare
It's a
Krishna, Malika.
Yeah, it's very complicated, the verses and to understand deeply, in my understanding. But whatever, because we are trying to listen to Srimad Bhagavatam, what Srila Prabhupada has given us. Also, he's so much, all the knowledge he's constantly giving us. I think our main purpose is to purify just the hearing and hearing and hearing. If our hearts will get clear, and the only purpose is to chant the holy name in a pure way. If that happened, then the discussion, listening, then that's served the purpose. I think that's what Srila Prabhupada wanted us to chant purely, but without going through this, knowledge, it is not going to come automatic. And this is what I understand. And only by chanting the holy name in a pure way, we can develop our loving relationship with Krishna, and then maybe by the mercy of Krishna, maybe one life we can go back to the spiritual world. But it's not very easy. It's very, very difficult because material energy is so powerful. So we have to, I mean, very humbly endeavor to do this, and then eventually, by Lord's mercy, it can happen. This is
Yeah.
my understanding. Thank you so much. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Thank you, Palika Mataji. Salish Bhai?
Hare Krishna and Adivina. Thank you for a wonderful class. I just wanted to help a little bit with, I think most of the reciters are struggling with these two numbers and recitals, and I think you've just struggled with it a little bit as well. So the likes of Brigu enjoy the duration of life on the solar of 4.3 billion years, but on the duration of life on Satyalok is calculated at 15.4 trillion years, not 15.4 billion years. It's 15.4 trillion years. 15.48 trillion years, yeah?
Yeah,
So
thank
it's an order of magnitude out. It's 100 times more than the billion number.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, there's so many zeros, it doesn't make any difference. But it's important for us to understand the order of magnitude that Prabhupada's giving us here.
Thank you, Salish Bhai. I really appreciate you giving us that with clear accuracy, because I don't think there's a better person than you to give us that information. It is about detail, and it just shows that these, as you said, these numbers in their trillions are incomprehensible, but yet it's about the accuracy. And that in itself just makes it even more incomprehensible that, if we're thinking about these trillions and trillions and trillions of years, in this one lifetime, Prabhupada has promised us, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has promised us that we can go back to Godhead, instead of, existing in Satyaloka for all that time. But thank you for that. I think even the internet doesn't get it right, because it's a very difficult number for most people to actually understand and read. How do you read these? Because I think it's helpful for us to know how you work it out.
So the 4.3 billion years is, you count the zeros.
Yeah.
The first three is significant for 1,000.
Yeah.
Second three, i.e. 6 zeros, is a million.
Million, yeah.
And then 9 zeros is a billion. So if you've got 4,300,000,000 is that number. And if you read the other one, you've got 480 billion, and you've got 15 in front of that. So it's 15,480,000,000,000.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, get it?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's really.
So there's 1,000 million becomes a billion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
15 trillion, 480 billion years.
No, 15,480,000,000,000.
Billion years, yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
just
linear.
mind-blowing numbers.
Thank you, Salish Rai. Thank you so much. And
happy birthday, belated birthday again for your 60th. Very big birthday you've had. So
thank you. Oh my God, you told everybody now. I'm a senior.
Oh, happy birthday, Nandrani.
Thank you.
please,
Thank you
everyone,
so
bless her. She's a very special soul.
I know.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Happy
Hare-
birthday.
Thank you.
Okay.
Taking the dust of your lotus feet, everyone. Panchakalpa tarupyascha kripa sindhuvya patitanam pavanam. Thank you so much, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Haribol.
Hare Bol. Have a nice